A lot is going on in the world, and we'll be talking about that here on World Edition. Ukraine strikes Moscow refinery in large-scale drone attack. So Ukraine drones set a Moscow refinery ablaze in a major attack on the Russian capital. So Moscow hit by the largest Ukraine attack since the start of Russia's full-scale war. Moscow mayor says dozens of Ukraine drones were downed in an attack on the Russian capital. And Trump ally vowing death to cartels closes in on Colombia presidency. So De La Espriella in the Colombia election. So two sides of a political chasm share one fear in Colombia's presidential race. So Colombia's front runner apparently is no populist, is what Jacobin is reporting. And Colombia faces a historic choice, is what is been written by its last president, and that was reported in the Economist. Israel severs contact with EU diplomat Kaja Kallas. So a blood libel. SAR severs all contact with EU foreign policy chief over alleged apartheid comparison. Kallas calls for dialogue after Israeli FM foreign minister vows to cut ties with her. So definitely that's something going on in the Middle East. And there's a report from NPR that Russia's nuclear-powered Skyfall missile is dirty and dangerous. Faith, Belonging, and Survival, and Now Destruction, a photographic account of Kiev's Prechersk Lavra Monastery before Russia's attack. So, inside the race to save one of Ukraine's holiest sites from a Russian strike was what was being reported in WSG, which is the Wall Street Journal. So, definitely, they're saying that as Russia strikes Ukraine, a cultural symbol caught fire, and that was about 3 days ago. An ancient oak tree said to have sheltered a legendary Robin Hood has died. So the ancient Sherwood Forest oak tree, reputed to have sheltered Robin Hood, has died. So the world famous Robin Hood oak tree has died, and ironically, the neighborhood that I live in is named after that famous area and everything like that. So it's one of the most famous trees in the world. Sherwood Forest's 1,000-year-old major oak has died. And Ukraine's Azov fighters were forced from Mariupol. Now they're hitting back. So Ukrainian forces strike bridge in occupied Crimea, Moscow oil refinery, and other Russian targets overnight. And in the U.S. news, it looks like there might be an agreement between Iran and the U.S. The United States and Iran have signed a memorandum to end hostilities. Iran gets major economic lifeline for minimal concessions in initial deal. I do understand that they cannot develop nuclear weapons and all along those lines. Trump hits back at critics as Iran peace deal fused debate over U.S. concessions. And definitely that's something to be reported about and thought about for several days. The Obama Presidential Center will be dedicated on Thursday, which is today. So Barack Obama confronts the work that remains for Democrats and for him. The Obama Presidential Center opening ceremony, museum dedication, lineup, and they're going to have a lot of great stars and everything like that. So that's something that folks are talking about as well. And Senate GOP frustration grows as Trump blocks Republican victories. So that's something else that people are covering as well. So Senate Republicans go increasingly frustrated with Trump blindsiding them. Trump upends Senate GOP plans once again with demands over the nomination. Trump feuds with Tholen and GOP, stoking election year rift. And fighters battle a massive blaze at the Boyle Heights facility. And the folks are saying what we know about the air quality after the massive Boyle Heights fire that's in Los Angeles. So, massive fire at warehouse in Boyle Heights triggers shelter-in-place orders, and definitely that's something that folks are talking about as it is engulfed the roof of a 500,000 square feet warehouse. So, the hour-long shelter-in-place order has been lifted now for the Boyle Heights warehouse fire. So, that's something that folks are talking about as well. And the Pentagon chief lashes out at NATO allies and announces a review of U.S. forces in Europe. So that's something that folks are talking about as well. Hedges lashes out at NATO and the allies and announces a review of U.S. forces in Europe. And Hedges announces U.S. review of Europe forces. Some say says some allies will fail. So that's definitely something that folks are looking at as well. Billionaire tax officially has enough signatures for the California ballot. So California billionaires tax qualifies for ballot, setting up a costly fight in that election in November. And a teenager dies after being thrown from a horse-drawn carriage in Central Park. So the man killed after a horse-drawn carriage bolts and flips near the popular New York City tourist destinations, and all in that way. And Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool turns green after renovations, so that's something that folks are talking about as well. And team Trump team labels cleaning algae from the reflecting pool a regional and national priority ahead of July 4th. Area photos show green reflecting pool, damage in South Lawn, and more. So definitely that's something that folks are talking about as well. And Tropical Storm Arthur, that might be one of the first tropical storms here in the area, makes landfall in Texas. So Tropical Storm Arthur, and folks are now going to try to figure out how much rain will fall in that area, and the remnants may redevelop off the U.S. coast. But life-threatening flooding and damaging winds are slamming the Gulf Coast as Arthur packs a punch. And it definitely looks like Tropical Storm Arthur was even hitting around Louisiana, because they were saying widespread flooding was reported across the New Orleans metro in Arthur's wake, and Arthur's ghost is fueling tornadoes and a high flood risk for the Gulf Coast. Baton Rouge is spared from heavy rainfall overnight as Tropical Storm Arthur downgrades as it moves through. So definitely we'll see about that. I'm going to bring in Nick Palveda and Sharif and hear their thoughts about these stories and other stories, since they're in other parts of the world. Republicans, by the way, are fearing that Trump is hurting their chances. He can't understand why. So Trump keeps blowing up his own agenda, and Republicans in Congress keep bunking Trump and see who voted against him. So it looks like some Republicans are actually going against him and voting against him, even though he is the current president. So we'll see how this all plays out. And Georgia Republican leaders nixed redistricting plans amid some pushback that they were receiving, and all along those lines. So I'll bring in Dr. Sharif. I might bring in Nick later on as well. I see he's off camera right now. But how are things going in Bangladesh? What's the big story in Bangladesh? What's happening in your neck of the woods, and all along those lines?
Thank you for a great question. Actually, I want to give a special thanks to USA because they make a peace deal with Iran.
Yes.
This is very, very important for this global economy, specifically this South Asian market. Secondly, from my World Talent Economic Forum tomorrow, we have one of the largest innovation centers. It's called Chuet Business Incubations in Bangladesh. Perhaps this is one of the largest in South Asia. So we are launching with 2,200 venture capital ecosystems, as well as more than few thousand entrepreneurs. They're joining in our ecosystem. So tomorrow morning, I'm flying to Chittagong, and it will be a very big brand for Port TVs and so on. And third important thing is that we are, I live in the Dhaka. Dhaka, you are right, the one of the biggest cities because of the population and so on. So I propose to this Bangladesh government and so on how we can develop a better city, how we can go for better urban plan with artificial intelligence, quantum computing, AI. What you know that we have a river called Purigonga. How we can go for these climate innovations with this river, with waste management, water purification, and air purifications. So that is the way I'm very hopeful because many largest corporations, government agencies, and some very powerful politicians and family they come to the under the umbrella of World Talent Economic Forum, and we are launching these $2.5 billion projects in Bangladesh. And those who come as an investor for this $2.5 billion investment program, they can go 10x growth for next 10 years for this investment because Bangladesh is a highly density populated countries, as well as with the revolution of AI, with the revolution of quantum computing and AI and the green technologies, it will be a massive improvement place for Bangladesh and for the global community. And what I call is a wisdom city, city of wisdom, city of hope, city of innovations, because I want to say the smart city concept. This is actually backdated concept with all of the data and relevant softwares and so on. But how human can utilize their wisdom, how human can utilize their productivity. Bangladesh has a lot of populations around the world. We have 300 million people, Bengali peoples we have. And definitely artificial intelligence and quantum computing and data is very important. But I want to say that data is a sovereign, like US corporation and China and so on. They're utilizing our data but we do not cannot protect our data. So, I through our program, through our projects, we want to utilize micro data centers, and we will utilize for Bangladesh sovereign. So we do not want to lose our sovereign with the all of the corporations and so on from Silicon Valleys and other corporations. So this is new dimension, new world. I'm very hopeful, and I want to invite you all as an investor, as a master planner, as a innovators, as a social activist, as a media in our new innovative projects. I can ensure it's one of the massive and human engagement, and one of the largest group of peoples they are supporting this initiative. Hopefully it will create a very very positive impact for Bangladesh, positive impact for the global community, positive impact for these things. And very interestingly, when I articulate our wisdom city to our prime minister office, wisdom city to our largest corporations and so on, I definitely share about Nick Palbeda, because Nick is someone, he changed my life, who actually contribute like how I can get my voice in the global arena through Pot TV, definitely. Nick and all of the rock star, I want to say, welcome to Bangladesh. This is the new economy, new revolutions, and new thing, and it will be a very good point of views for Pot TV. Definitely, our government, especially our cultural minister, is eager to wait to collaborate with Pot TV USA. And secondly, definitely Nick worked for investment corporations like pension scheme and so on. He can help Bangladesh for our wisdom cities with the development of financial strategy and so on. And this is also, I want to give credit to Nick. He first time he said that regular education they do not teach the financial issues and so on. And you are correct. And after your guideline, I developed this venture capital ecosystem for emerging economy. So I'm very happy. Around 2,252 venture capital from around the world, they support my initiative. They join in the ecosystem. So tomorrow we are joining in Chittagong Engineering Universities with 100 of startup. So hopefully, thank you, Nick, for all of your advice, guideline, and I want to give thanks for your wisdom affairs. And you can see the social media, we heavily promote this, you and yeah, the Pot TVs and so on.
It's greatly appreciated. You're doing a great job in that. Hey, Nick, along those same lines, I saw that your state was in the news for a mix-up and everything like that. 'Cause I was actually reading USA Today, and they said a Florida couple. Some people cannot have babies naturally, so they do IVF. So there was a Florida couple in the IVF mix-up case that is apparently going to keep the baby that is not genetically theirs. So the biological parents of a baby and an embryo mix-up made the heartbreaking decision not to fight for custody, is what the attorney says, as the Florida couple was given the wrong embryo, but they will retain permanent custody of their child and everything like that. So that can happen if you're trying to have babies, if you're not able to have them because one of the partners is infertile or something along those lines. There might have been some other health issues that were existing, but for whatever reasons, they were able to keep the baby that they had, even though it was a mix-up and everything like that. So when you're in Florida, did you ever deal with any of those kind of cases where there was like rights or mix up and people that were trying to have those things, because it can become a legal issue as well. Unfortunately, it did not become one in this case because they apparently did not try to make it a custody battle.
Absolutely not. I'm very specialized in what I get involved in, and so I get cases thrown at me all the time. But I'm not going to handle any of that stuff. Like I said, I'm pretty specialized. But talk about Dr. Sharif. There's something that we're doing on the Pod TV network, and that's TechStorm. It's going to be on Pod TV. It's one of our channels. Yeah. They'll be running 24/7. I don't know if you know Rex Salee. He's heading up that project. So we're going to have 24/7 tech talks going on Pod TV. It's a separate channel from what we're broadcasting, which is Pod TV Live. So I should get you in touch with Rex, because some of your programming qualifies to be on TechStorm on the Pod TV network. Second of all, something for Rick Rosner. Remember we're talking about AI, eliminating jobs? How about this? This just came out on the R-Wire. State Farm is going to cut commissions 40% for 19,000 agents due to AI. you have no idea how much that hurts these
That's
19,000 agents.
true.
So it's not just they're going to lose jobs, they're going to lose revenue due to AI. And this one I thought was pretty big because now they're not in my industry. They're in what they call property and casualty. I'm in annuity and life. And you got to imagine the insurance industry is bifurcated. But the State Farm agents around the country aren't going to be happy seeing a 40% pay cut. And I always look at it this way: the excuse is AI. Reality might be it's more profits. But I do have a lot of high hopes for TechStorm on Pod TV, especially with this IPO with SpaceX. It went off the charts. I mean, 1.7 trillion, it moved up to over 2 trillion. Now it's going back down, which is a typical IPO. But we have two other big IPOs coming up, Anthropic and OpenAI. And I didn't get involved in this, what do they call it, SpaceX, because the metrics weren't there. And the metrics probably won't be there for the next one. But the game is there for somebody who wants to make, I hate to say it, a quick buck. You should get into OpenAI, write it up, get out quick, and say goodbye. Okay, same with Anthropic.
You might
Anyway.
say, well, that's just commissions. What about their salary? So I asked AI.
And they're not paid. Most of them aren't paid.
No,
on
so it
salary.
says for most insurance agents, commissions are 100% of their take-home income.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They don't have. If you go to State Farm agency, they don't get paid on salary. They get paid on commissions. So you buy a policy, a certain amount of that policy will go to them for commissions. But now imagine this: it's going to be dropping 40%.
Yeah, if you were making $85,000 and just getting by in Minnesota, in frickin' Oklahoma, Nebraska, now you're going to be making $51,000.
Correct. You're basically correct. And they are all sitting there. They're like deer in headlight, going, "What are we going to do?" Because I know a lot of these people. We have them as our clients, even because some of them do really well. State Farm agencies can be very profitable businesses, but somebody going and saying, "Okay, your comp is going to get cut 40% next year," or coming up shortly, you're sitting there like a deer in headlight. What's going on?
Nick, AI is testing a lot of industries, because I know even in one of my other jobs, the testing company, that we've been for the last 3 years testing against AI, but so far the humans are winning because AI doesn't really understand all that much about human nuances. But that doesn't mean that they won't eventually make it a cost-cutting decision and let the AI grade the papers eventually as well, or score the papers, because they don't like to use the word or the term grading, because that's more of a teacher for responsibility, not that of a score if you're an evaluator for a testing company and everything like that. But yeah, there's a lot of companies that are using AI and testing on AI and trying to see if AI can take over their jobs. We're even seeing that in the restaurant business, where some servers are AI and all along those lines. But just really quickly, the other thing I was going to mention of your state, or your former state, Florida, is, and this comes to another controversial issue. Apparently today, because of those lovely hurricanes, beach is emptying Alligator Alcatraz. So all the detainees were transferred out of that controversial migrant facility. So that had to be a logistical nightmare and everything like that. So environmental groups are criticizing taxpayer spending at Alligator Alcatraz after the detainees were moved out. So it looks like they were having all these detainees as part of the crackdown on the migrants, and then they had to move them because they had them stored at a place that is known for getting a lot of tropical weather and everything like that. So I don't know, they probably moved them further in, inland in Florida and everything like that. But I know that there were probably thousands, if not tens of thousands, maybe even, I don't know about hundreds of thousands, but definitely thousands, if not tens of thousands of folks that were there, and they had to do that whole logistical thing of moving them around. And I know just from doing logistics at festivals that kind of logistics could be a serious nightmare and everything like that. So what's your thoughts about the migrant situation?
Here's my thoughts on this. Okay, the Trump administration has made it perfectly clear. If you're even thinking about illegally immigrating into the United States, think again. Because as they say in Pawn Stars, it ain't happening. Okay, and they made it a real miserable experience for people that decide they want to come into the United States without filing the proper paperwork. And whether it's alligator, Alcatraz, or it's flying you to some country you're not familiar with, it doesn't matter. If you're going to come to the United States, you better fill out the proper paperwork, or you can forget it. Don't even bother coming here. As I say, in Pawn Stars isn't happening. So one thing, like it or not, that's how it works here. Now, in some countries, they think this is a great idea. A lot of the European countries think they should have done that because, unfortunately, a lot of the illegal immigrants have drawn down the economy of the country. I mean, it hasn't been good. So, like it or not, I would say don't think about coming to the U.S. if you're going there. Because they made it a very serious.
And I know he's your good friend and everything like that. I had reported that, and Rick, I don't know if you had heard this. I had reported at one point, because that's what I had heard, that the Knicks had turned him down. But apparently, because he's friends with the owner of the Knicks, they are actually going to the White House and everything like that. Because apparently, I guess if the boss tells you got to go, then he'll probably get at least a few of the athletes to go, because Dolan, the owner of the Knicks.
All right, let's ask AI. What's happening?
See, AI knows everything. We can be incredibly stupid today. I had to ask AI some questions, and they're really good at giving basic research and answers. I'm sorry, it's going to be dominant.
What does AI say? Because I know I read this yesterday.
Yeah, AI knows everything. So you don't have to know
it seems crazy because these, but yes, according to AI, they are going.
Right.
I can't imagine that the entire team is going to show up.
And I'm thinking that part of the reason that they're going is because Trump is personal friends and has been personal friends for a long time with Dolan. So Dolan's the one that actually accepted the invitation. I don't think the players.
Is Dolan the owner of the Knicks?
Dolan is the owner.
Okay, so he's got a buddy relationship, and so the thing is, there will be a lot of Knicks going to the White House. I mean, I would go. I don't have a problem with it. Just because you go to the White House doesn't mean you agree with all the policies coming out of that particular place. It's kind of a neat thing to do. It's just like I went to the Supreme Court, but I had a case before it. But it doesn't mean I agree with all the cases that go through there. I mean, come on. So, there's nothing wrong with it. What's really wrong is the stratification in the U.S. between the Republicans and Democrats. They're really stupid people because they both are embroiled in a great.
There's a new study out, and I don't know if you saw this because actually
it's ridiculous.
No, but it's become even worse than that, Nick. Because there was
an article
we were talking about.
But if I live in Spain,
Urban Signal, because I think that only 26% of Americans identify as Republican. I think it's 27 identify as Democrats, but there is a growing group that identify as independent, and it's kind of
that's me.
I think it's like 7% right now that say that they are independent and don't identify with either party.
Yeah.
Because of what
I can't stand
both parties.
So I actually registered as independent on my way out the door because I can't stand what both of them are doing. I think it's ridiculous.
Just to go back to the NBA, Trump has been president now for 6 NBA champions. This is the first time that the team will be showing up at the White House.
Good. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is,
Dr. joined us as well, and I definitely looking forward to hearing his thoughts about this agreement. But before I get to that, the other thing that Trump has done recently, and I wish that Jacoby was here because I know he's got some folks in his family, including the immediate family, that fall in this situation. But families with kids with disabilities are warning the education department changes could break a flawed system. So apparently they're already complaining about the system, and now they're doing these changes in the education department. So they're thinking that it could even make it worse and everything like that. So what is your thoughts around that? Because I think you, Rick, you may even have some family members that are in that kind of situation of being a disability of one sort or another, particularly young people. Even though I know your daughter doesn't have any.
I'm sorry, I was just, what's happening with the Department of Education?
They're moving it out because, Trump is moving like the part of the people that handle disabilities. I think it was disabilities and it might have been civil rights, but there's a lot of parts of the education department that they are moving to other parts of the government, and families of kids with disabilities are warning that these changes could break an already flawed system.
Yeah, so they've made no secret of wanting to shut down the entire Department of Education.
Correct.
And so disabilities they're getting rid of. They already pretty much shut down the part of the DOE that's supposed to supervise schools to make sure that they are actually prosecuting sexual assault on campus instead of just covering it up. that part of their function has pretty much been shut down.
Yeah. And by the way, a Trump-endorsed pastor has suspended his Oklahoma House campaign after a texting scandal. Yeah, you can get in trouble for texting. So Jackson Lemire has withdrawn from the Oklahoma House race, and he was the pastor for Pastors for Trump founder withdraws from the U.S.
So
House.
he had a miss. Is this Texas? Where is this at?
Oklahoma.
So he had a miss, I think, Oklahoma for pageant winner working on his campaign, working with him. And she was going through a divorce, and they made out a few times. And then he sent her 1,000 text messages. And so once it came out, he decided to withdraw from the race.
Yeah, he's withdrawn now and everything like that. Just really quickly, we have an agreement apparently between Iran and the U.S. I know that you were waiting for that and other agreements to come down on Friday, but what is your thoughts around this agreement? Will it hold on? I think that they can't develop nuclear weapons, at least that's what it claims. They're supposed to open up the Strait of Hormuz, and there's supposed to be other things that might be concessions. But yeah, I think even some of the Republicans aren't too pleased with the agreement because they think that there might have been too much concessions, because apparently we're supposed to help them with economic development and recovering from some of these war attacks and everything like that. So what is your take on the agreement, and do you think it's a fair agreement?
It's a bad agreement.
There is no Friday.
It's not an agreement, it's a memorandum of understanding.
Yes, you're correct. It's memorandum of understanding.
Thank you.
It's not by agreement by any means, and it has been signed yesterday. There is no Friday. There is no Saturday or Sunday. It's been signed. Now, what obligations, if any, on Iran? Zero. There is no obligations of any kinds. Now, the Strait of Hormuz will be open, but it was open before the war. 4 months ago, Strait of Hormuz was open to anybody. Now it's going to be under Iranian control, and they will take fees, consulting fees, engineering fees, all kinds of fees from these tankers that have to cross this. Then there is something interesting is the agreement, the letter of intent, agreement. No, it's not agreement. It's letter of intent. Call it any way you want it. It's not binding. It's a piece of paper which is zero. Zero absolutely on everything. But there's interesting points. Number one of this agreement is that absolutely all hostilities and fighting between Iran and US will stop right away, and that includes Lebanon. It does not include Israel. It includes Lebanon. So if Hezbollah from Lebanon can inflict firepower on Israel, Israel will immediately respond with this memorandum or without it. It doesn't matter. It will respond in kind. So then this memorandum could be derailed on the day one, maybe even earlier. There is a fund, $300 billion, of which US is not going to provide even a penny. No American taxpayers' money. Wonderful. So whose money are there? Qatar? What is 2.3 billion? What is that all about? I don't know. In agreement, there is in a letter, what's called memorandum of understanding. It's $300 billion. Somebody put this number 2.3 billion. I can't comment on that.
Yeah, that might have been that somewhere, but I don't know if he found that number. I think it was 300 billion.
So let's do some math on the Strait of Hormuz, because Iran has now shown that they control the strait. They can shut it down whenever they want. So between 30,000 and 50,000 ships go through the strait every year, 90 to 140 a day. Iran has been charging tankers $1.5 to $2 million per tanker to go through, because a tanker can be carrying $250 million worth of oil. So it's like a 1% tax.
Right.
And so $2 million a day times 100 ships a day is $200 million a day. They probably won't make that much. They'll probably, but Iran has the chance to make, say, $100 million a day off of ship traffic. That works out to almost $40 billion a year. And that they were not charging before, but now they're probably going to charge. So we gave Iran a new business that generates $40 billion a day. I think that would make Iran probably a Fortune 500 company.
Definitely a Fortune 500 company, ranked bigger than some of our own states, because some of them don't even have that kind of budget. I mean, I think North Carolina probably exceeds that because we're like 9th or 10th and everything like that. But some of the smaller states probably don't even have that kind of money in their coffers, or if they do, it's probably comparable and everything like that. So yeah, they're about to be a major force, and already might have been a major force and everything like that. Hey, Rick, just really quickly, and switching the topic just slightly, Mamdani apparently is testing his political clout as he looks to reshape the Democratic Party. So they're saying that the left is coming for Democratic incumbents. So I guess he's trying to have some more left-leaning candidates. And I know a lot of people, including some of our right-wing past pundits that used to be on the show, were not the biggest fans of Mamdani or the left, and even some of the people now, because I don't know that David Walker is the biggest fan.
Here's what goes on with the Democrats. The Democrats are crappier at messaging than the Republicans. And part of that is just being crappy. Part of it, though, is the Republicans keep moving further and further to the right.
Right.
Like the Texas Republicans are having their annual meeting, and one of the planks of their platform is no IVF in Texas. If right. You're trying to get pregnant, forget it. We're going to make it illegal. Now, I can't imagine that would pass. I don't know, 3% of births are via some kind of reproductive technology. There's nothing in the Bible against IVF. I don't know why they would want to do this. But anyway, it's an extreme position. And the more they move to the right, the more of the political area can belong to the Democrats. But the more it's the big tent problem. That if the Republicans are all way the heck over here and the Democrats occupy the rest of everything, the Democrats are never going to agree on stuff, because you got the super libs who are socialists on one side, and then you have the barely Democrats on the other side who are basically like light Republicans. They're never going to get along, and you're never going to have unity.
Exactly. And that makes a lot of sense. But by the way, he did do something that was interesting that may have made him some fans, maybe have not made him some fans, everything like that. But, you know, people, when they go to prison, they can also get college degrees. They can get high school diplomas. And apparently there were a couple of inmates at Rikers that got their college degree. And Mamdani didn't just come to the graduation, but I think he spoke at the graduation. I think this was as recently as either yesterday or the day before. So he actually spoke at the graduation, because even though you might have committed some horrible crime, or
so there's always a debate about what is prison for. Is it for retribution and punishment, or is it for rehabilitation? And so, if you believe that people can change, and that once they do their time, they deserve a fair, they deserve a chance to build a life beyond prison.
Right.
And this goes to the side of prison being for rehabilitation.
Right. And that's what I think Mamdani was saying, that it's for rehabilitation, and he's a fan of that and everything.
Let's go back to the Democrats being like bad at messaging. What really helps any political party is having a charismatic candidate. And for the last 3 election cycles, both parties have had terrible candidates that have huge negatives. The last time we had a charismatic candidate, sincere, that didn't freak out half of the country, was Obama. People tended to like Obama. Not racists, but the rest of the country liked him. And then we had 3 elections where you got Hillary, not loved by a lot of the country, versus Trump, hated by half the country. Then you had Trump Biden, everybody kind of hating that because 2 old guys. And then you had Biden Trump again, except then Biden drops out, and you got Harris coming in a very messy way. So we've had 3 elections that didn't give us anybody that America could line up behind. Now, Mamdani, young, charismatic, could he win a national election? Probably not, because of his policies. But
too far over.
You got AOC, who's charismatic, same problem.
Same problem.
Left. Then you got Gavin Newsom, great looking guy,
got a chance.
Tall, good hair. They try to make him look terrible for running California, but California is the 4th biggest economy in the world. It's hard to label him, a socialist.
He get in trouble with this whole notion of the billionaire tax. I know that Nick is talking about this before, and it is officially on the ballot. They've got enough signatures for it to be on the California ballot. So will this be an issue that could be costly to Newsom and everything like that? So what's our thought around the billionaire tax that is now qualified for the 2026 ballot?
Probably.
Okay. I'll tell you a little thing. Okay. First of all, there's a couple interesting things. When SpaceX went public, they made an acquisition that's going to create about a half a dozen or a dozen new billionaires, the names we don't even know, young people in their 20s worth billions. Then I started trying to figure out, what does Spain do about this problem? Because you guys have a real problem there. I mean, I like seeing companies go public. I like the innovation. I like them able to raise capital. But the average American, and none of our listeners, almost none of them, get to participate in this. The only way we participate, I guess, is to gamble on their stock. And that's it. Now, here's what Spain does, like it or not. They have a net worth tax here in Spain, okay? And you pay up to 3.5% of your net worth into taxes every year. They don't have that in the United States. Another way you could solve this problem to allow Americans to participate is to do a forced allocation of the shares. What do I mean by that? Remember when SpaceX went public, in case you guys didn't know, Elon controls all the voting shares. He's got total control over it. And then they segregated out maybe 20% of the non-voting shares that they sold for $70 billion or some small amount. Here's what you do. You allocate 15.3% to the American government. Why 15.3%? Oddly enough, for American taxpayers, that's what everybody pays in Social Security and Medicare taxes. So if it's good for an average worker to pay 15.3%, it's good for billionaires to also contribute 15.3%, but it's not a tax. You're not going to say, oh, you got to cash out. It is what Dr. Sharif would say, a sovereign wealth fund. All right. So now the thing is, now I would feel good about SpaceX. Right now, I don't. I feel bad about it. I feel bad because I didn't participate, and I feel bad is because I couldn't participate when I wanted to participate. I feel bad because I'm locked out, and I feel good because everybody benefited, but the U.S. people who are listening here did not benefit. And there are sovereign wealth funds. As a matter of fact, Finland has one of the biggest sovereign wealth funds that everybody receives a dividend. The United States doesn't even think in terms of sovereign wealth funds. When you were in school, Rick, did you study sovereign wealth funds?
No.
Okay. But do they have it in Finland? Go look in Norway. Go look at Norway's sovereign wealth fund. We won't bother with Finland. Let's go look at Norway's sovereign wealth fund. What does it do for the average person? So remember, SpaceX didn't do jack for most of the Americans. Most of the people listening to this, you did nothing. Yay, not Trump. Elon Musk, I guess the same thing, made a lot of money. Yay, his cronies.
Norway's sovereign wealth fund, largest of its kind, with assets surpassing $2.2 trillion.
Yeah.
Established in 1990 to invest the surplus revenues of the Norwegian petroleum sector. When the massive size equates to roughly nearly $400,000 for every Norwegian citizen. So what do they use this for, Nick? I assume they use it for like social services.
Yeah, right. And see, there's nothing that says the United States couldn't do what I call a forced allocation of 15.3% of the SpaceX shares into the U.S. sovereign wealth fund. The problem is that the Americans are so financially illiterate, they don't even know what goes on in other countries. And they don't even know how they deal with this disparity. That's part of the advantage of
in Norway gets $400,000.
No, they have a fund that they can spend. This is a pot of money sitting in investments and that generates interest, right? So 2.2 trillion should generate conservatively $100 billion a year just in interest. And they can spend it, I bet you, Norway. I bet you if you have a kid, you might get a year of paid maternity leave.
If not better. Okay. And see, this is the problem with the U.S., the United States, which is one reason I live in Spain. You guys don't have anything like that. It's a winner take all. It reminds me of when I used to play chess, and Sasha knows it.
All right, so here's the thing. I looked it up, I guessed. Okay. I bet you Norway doesn't cost anything to go to college.
No, it's free. Are you kidding me?
So, hey, by the way, speaking of chess and everything like that, on my show yesterday, the online dinner party, I had a gentleman that has his own boxing ring and his own boxing gym. He's actually an Olympic, he trains Olympic boxers in Hickory, North Carolina. But you'll be glad to know, both you and Sasha, he is a chess player, because he was talking about how chess players are like boxers and they have to think 3 moves ahead and sometimes even more than that. So he was making the comparison between boxing and the game of chess. So definitely, even though he is a physical man of boxing and is an admirer of Muhammad Ali and others, he is.
Hold on, before you go on, I want to talk about Norway a little bit more. Here's what having $2 trillion can do. Parental leave for when you have a kid. You can leave and you get 49 weeks of leave paid at 100% of your salary, or you can take 59 weeks. You can take almost 14 months paid at 80% of your salary.
And also I'll tell you this, it's not a tax. It's what I call a forced allocation. It doesn't cost SpaceX anything. It doesn't cost any of these IPOs anything at all to do a forced allocation. And so now
let's go back to the original question. Yeah. Would a billionaire's tax in California hurt Newsom? Not much, because all he has to do
not much. There aren't that many billionaires.
There are 214 billionaires in California, and all Newsom has to say is it would only affect 214 people, and we're only asking them to pay a one-time tax of 5%.
Yeah, see, in Spain, it's an annual 3.5%, Rick, in case you didn't know. So if you move to Spain, you're going to be writing checks to the government. But also, what people don't know, these billionaires do not have the money. Okay, in other words, if you ask Elon, okay, write a check for $1 trillion, he doesn't have it. All he has is what Bill Gates said. It's my value of my shares in the company.
So what you said, just all right, then give us some shares. We'll invest them.
Well, that's what I was saying. Okay, see, the solution is so simple. In other words, you create the sovereign wealth fund of the United States, and there's a forced allocation of shares of 15.3%. I'm using 15.3 because that's what they bang every American who's working on Social Security and Medicare taxes, whether they know it or not. So with a cap of 184,500, then you don't pay it anymore, at least the Social Security. So what I'm saying is what we do is this. You do a sovereign wealth fund in the United States, which we've never had. You do a forced allocation of shares of 15.3. It costs no cash to do it. It's a cashless transaction. Yet now every American can clap and hooray and push SpaceX or whatever thing goes public with a positive feeling that they're going to benefit from it. Right now, most of the people listening to this show did not benefit at all from SpaceX.
Not benefit at all. I want to come back to, and that's fascinating with the finances, and I agree we got to do better and everything. But I want to come back to a good news story that Dr. Sharif will enjoy. But before I get to the good news story, and I wish that Sasha was still around, or even Shaquille, because there is a battle of the Five Eyes countries that'll be this evening in a very popular sport, World Cup. So can the USA beat Australia? That's my question for y'all that follow sports, because that match is, I think, either tonight or tomorrow. No, I think it's Friday night, but it is a match that's coming up soon. So how will we do when we go against Australia? Because I think Australia's got a pretty good soccer team, if I remember correctly.
Australia's good in sports in general. They all the people in Australia and New Zealand, they're almost like forced to participate in sports. So they're kind of like a sportsy country. How they're going to do, I don't know. I don't know the soccer.
Well, let's see what the bookies say.
Yeah, the AI knows everything.
Let's see what the AI bookies say.
Hey, Mark,
So,
it goes back
the
to
U.S.
AI
is
knows everything.
favored about 60-40, 62-38. You have to bet $1.65 to win $1 on the U.S.
So the U.S. is favored over.
The U.S. is
The
favored.
U.S. is a bigger country too.
I have a solution for American people.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, very good. As Nick are very frustrated about this IPO of SpaceX, as well as you are discussing about this average American, they do not have any kind of benefit. Why don't they focus on country like Bangladesh Stock Exchange, and they invest money over there, then they can go for it.
Because let me just answer your question really quickly. The average American, that I can speak as one that would be considered an average American, while I love you dearly and everything like that, but the average American is, say, from Durham or anywhere else, even some of the rural towns, one, they don't know where your country is, and two, they are having a hard enough time investing in their own things in the U.S., much less invested in another country.
Very small thing. Very small thing. Let's say we have microfinance, right? We have microfinance, but microfinance institution, we have operations in USA, right? Most of the microfinance concept and funding and so on, with this Bill and Melinda Gates foundations, with this, all of the like Bill Clintons and Hillary Clintons and so on, everybody has some very good relationship with these things. So if microfinance can be successful in USA with the collaboration, why don't me and Nick can do something for USA?
Yeah, I don't know if it's considered microfinance. Well, hold on a second. Maybe you can answer this, but I do know a lot of people that are poorer got involved in not just wanting to go to the banks, because banks have their own issues like fees that they charge and everything like that. Even though you see a lot of commercials where young people are doing entrepreneurship, I think Chase even has a commercial where young people are doing all these great jobs and then they are taking their money to open a Chase banking account. That's the latest Chase commercial that's out there and everything like that. But a lot of people, particularly in certain societies, were getting involved in credit unions, which might be like a fine form of microfinance. So I don't know if Bangladesh has done that, but I know like here in Durham, there's the Latin Credit Union, there's Self-Help Credit Union, there are a number of credit unions. So some people will go into a form of banking that they feel is more affordable and everything like that. But I don't know what Nick's thoughts around credit unions.
Like this microfinance institution, for your kind information, they actually do all of the, I want to say, the opposite things they do, what the regular banking system actually do. Right, regular banking system actually pay you money based on the equity, right? Based on the your any kind of equity. But microfinance institution, they do not take any equity and so on. Secondly, let's say regular banking focus on the rich communities, right? The rich people, those who have money. So microfinance institutions, they go for all of the women. They do not have money. Right, the grassroots level women and so on, the empowering women through entrepreneurial initiatives, and women are very good at social entrepreneurships. And so when I do research about these microfinance institutions, I find that all of the things they do what actually regular banking do, they do the opposite things. So you have to go for innovation, right? What Nick said, we have to go for innovations and so on, and we have to identify the market which will add values in the easiest way for American people. So, example, when you come as an investor in Bangladesh, you will get tax haven, you will get all of the support and so on. So I think that this is high time. Like if you see the Chinese people, when I was in California, I see that Chinese people are like an immigrant nations. Like Nick is very smart. Very, very smart. Nick, right now, he identified that the Spain is the very good opportunity for him, and he moved, he live, enjoying his life. So why don't the, US people they think like a Nick or identify some of the countries for them and better opportunity for investment and
Well,
gaining
the
from
part of
them.
that is the way that the U.S. is set up, and Nick may not agree with me, but I'm just going to give part of my theory because I talk about it even in my history talks at Hayti and everything like that. Is that there is a lot of people that are in societies. I know that Rick is familiar with this, and they are insulated in their societies and they support each other. Like a lot of the Indian people here in the U.S. live in a part of Cary where they oftentimes support each other and are living in a community where they support each other. But unfortunately, some of our communities, when they support each other people are threatened by that and they don't support it. Because W.E.B. Du Bois talked about that in our African American community, which was one of the Black Wall Street, because he had this quote about how you could literally be born at a hospital, have a black doctor, die, and have a black funeral home director, but you could also get your suit, and I'm paraphrasing, your suit made by a black suit maker. You could even get your own mattress made by a black mattress maker and everything like that. But that was in a community that was very, it was insular and very much in a community and all that. And then they destroyed that community. They built a highway through it, just like in Tulsa they bombed it. In Wilmington they firebombed it and everything like that, or they burned it, I should say, and everything like that. So sometimes some of the people that are in power are threatened by the fact that people are finding ways to support themselves and their communities.
I think that what Mark was saying is that in the United States, Dr. Sharif, okay, that one problem that you have is like you said, half the people, if you poll them, we haven't done it, but we should try, don't even know where Bangladesh is. Okay, so you show up on this show, and so you're giving Bangladesh a lot of exposure. I'm telling you that. But the average American who you so show where Bangladesh is on a map, we should go do that just to see what comes up. It'll be quite funny to see. They don't even know where it is, let alone what the problems are over there. So you're asking for a big stretch. The other problem is the way wealth is distributed in the U.S. It used to be more egalitarian. So you would actually have a middle class you could go to, even the lower class would have money. Now you have a 1% have money. So when you went to Palo Alto and you went to Stanford, you're getting close to the right area, but you also have to have the right people in that area to work with. Because if you go outside the area, they don't have the type of money that you're talking about. Now, a lot of people, when they see Americans overseas, they're going, oh, they're all rich. The ones that travel are, okay, they usually have some funds, but that doesn't represent the average American that doesn't travel, by the way. And they just don't have the financial ability to do, frankly, anything. Speaking about our political commentary, we have Steve Rao, who has joined us, and maybe he'll have something to say. Steve, I proposed a sovereign wealth fund in the United States. We don't have one, but as Rick did his analysis, Norway does, and they have $2 trillion. When the IPO of SpaceX went off, none of the billionaires paid any taxes, zero. And I'm saying I don't want them to pay taxes. What I want to do is allocate 15.3% of the shares into the U.S. sovereign wealth fund. That's all. It won't cost them a dime, and just do an allocation. And in Norway, they did it, and now, according to Rick, the sovereign wealth fund is.
I don't want that right now because we're heading into 1995 with the new laws being proposed by the SEC, where they want to go back to biannual reporting, where the owners of these companies can manipulate a lot of the funds, steal them, and the company go under before anyone knows about it, which, we have this documented in history. And the reason why we went to quarterly reporting was to put more accountability on things and prevent those kind of inappropriate actions by corporate leaders. But it happened once. People should have learned from it, but we've got a MAGA society that doesn't learn from their mistakes, and it's scary. I have to admit, I'm really scared right now for the market for anything that's invested in right now, if the SEC approves it, SEC approves it. And the reason this is bad, because everybody goes, well, it's an option. But everyone's going to choose to go what's legally laxating for them. If it's easier for them to do biannual, they're going to do biannual. The accountability came in 1995 when so many were busted in manipulating the funds and stealing them and letting the companies go bankrupt. We saw this with Nortel. We saw this with various other organizations. And I just think it's a bad thing. I don't know. I don't comprehend why they would want to even go back to those.
Because it's a lack of accountability, and they have a president who loves lack of accountability. I have a question for Steve. So at this point in Biden's presidency, he destroyed his approval rating for the rest of his presidency by withdrawing abruptly from Afghanistan. Now, Trump has done something as bad or worse with this ridiculous war, but will it hurt him like Biden and Afghanistan, or is Trump just freaking bulletproof with his base?
I guess he's bulletproof with his base. I think it'll hurt him with the Democrats. And guys, I'm sorry I'm late again. I'm a lobbyist now, and so I can't control the session, so I can't get the Wi-Fi to work. But the legislature, North Carolina legislature, they've got terrible Wi-Fi. So I think that he is bulletproof with his base, but I do think it gives the Democrats an opportunity to make up the very point you made, that he's made the same mistake as Biden. And we have a foreign policy now that, is just going in, invading countries, scorched earth, and then let's worry about fixing it later. And meanwhile, while you do that, you sabotage the economy and this whole thing of, now the economy, I guess one strategy is he gets it as bad as they can be so that things get better. And then he goes, well, things are getting better, right? So I think it hurts Rubio as well, because he's just standing by the president's side, and, he's running for president. So, I think the last Secretary of State to become president was Rubio may not be following in his footsteps, but I think Trump is just not really worried about. I just don't know whether he's making decisions, getting good information, whether he has the right people around him, and also just his mental health. Is he physically and mentally okay? And I think those are the questions we need to be asking of our president or any president, regardless of whether they're Democrat or Republican.
Hey, just really quickly, Steve, along those same lines, how concerned are you about his health? Because, there was a lot of concern, as Rick just said, about Biden at about this point in his career, and there's already concerns about the state of Trump's health. He did just turn 80 yesterday or a few days ago and everything like that. So how concerned are you as a person that is a lobbyist and has run for political office yourself about the health of our current president?
I'm worried about his mental health a little bit. I sometimes get worried. I see the behavior somewhat erratic, very impulsive. I think a president needs to be somebody that's being calm and methodical, not being vengeful or vindictive. And so that's why physically he may be okay. I've noticed a little swelling on the face when you see him up close, which makes you wonder about, just from the face, but not as healthy as it looked 4 years ago. Of course, he's 81 years old. I'm not a doctor, Mark, but I can just tell you that he doesn't look like a clean bill of health. And when we say health, we look at mental health, physical health, spiritual health. I think like he's off on all cylinders. But when you're making mistakes or you're not doing well, and you've got people that are in the corner going, "This is great, this is great, this is great," you almost feel some kind of a narcissism where he just believes that he's so wonderful. I will say that he has an incredible amount of confidence, which I kind of admire. After going through a stunning loss myself, I don't think I'll ever run. It damaged my mind. I'm working and everything, but I don't know if I'll ever quite recover from such a stunning loss when there were so much expectations and predictions I was going to win. And how a man could just overcome losing something like the presidency, is beyond me. And so I wonder about that. Is that normal, that kind of confidence, or is he so narcissistic and egotistical that the whole world revolves around him and he doesn't know any other way.
Yeah,
Steve, in your case, the election was stolen.
It irritates you. Right. So do you think the U.S. can survive another 2 years of what we're going through right now?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think we can. We're survivors. We'll get through this. Our country's always been through bad patches. I think we need to start having better conversations with ourselves about what kind of country we want to be and come together. But I would encourage any Republican or Democrat, independents that are in the center to start really leading, and let's quit succumbing to the extremes, and let's have a conversation about the economy and our stance in the world. And then I do think America can get to a better place. The good news is there's only one way we can go, up.
Yeah, we can only go up, and I know we're wrapping up and everything like that, but I will, speaking of being that kind of attitude and everything like that, that's the other story I was going to mention that I didn't get to, but I just want to share it. It is a sad day when somebody passes away in a plane crash, and there was a Capital Factory CEO that passed away, but apparently there was a lot of efforts where volunteers, and you'll get a kick out of this, Kim, because I know you got family and people in Texas, but they raced to save the passengers, including the teenage son of the person that passed away. So Joshua Byer passed away, but they apparently used a sledgehammer and a shovel, so they found whatever they could to actually get to this fiery plane crash and rescue somebody or rescue folks, and all along those lines. So I think they only killed the one founder, but they did manage to rescue, and that was one of them cases where even in disaster we can come together and not worry about what the person's politics are and just try to find ways to rescue somebody, because apparently these were volunteers and common citizens that were using everything from a sledgehammer to a shovel to rescue this teenage son and the other people that were there. So it's just so good that we can have those kind of good news kind of things.
And thank you for sharing those good news. And Steve, you're absolutely right. From where we're looking, we only have one way to go, and that's up. So, folks, we're going to bring you more news tomorrow. Thank you, Steve, for joining us. Please continue coming because you bring us a wealth of information. Mark, thank you so much for running this show.
Great. Everyone looked great. Kimberly looked great.
Oh, thank you, Steve. We need to get together and have lunch and talk about what you're doing. Right. I need to get up to date, not just about our local, but about global.
I love it.
Thanks. And everyone, just please, until we see you tomorrow, take care.